Anyone knows that when you're in the moment, right, and your feelings have flooded in and you are seeing this money in front of your eyes, it is very difficult to make a sound decision that will impact you in a positive way. And for anyone at any time, in any place, trading is no different. I've always thought that trading in micro is life in the macro. The better you are at managing yourself in your daily life, the better the trader you're going to be. I mean, at the end of the day, 90% of this comes down to discipline. That's why when I say anyone can do this, I mean it. Anyone can achieve these results as long as they can manage oneself. If you can manage oneself, you can be wildly successful at this, make more money than you ever managed. I mean, I would have never assumed, like the NVIDIA trade we had that we just were talking about. I took like 1,600%, I believe 1,600%. That's correct. It turned, anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000. I can't remember what the exact starting position was, into like 50, 60, 70,000 overall as I took profit on the way up. Able to buy the car of my dreams and do some cool material things that I wouldn't have done aside from that. So let's look at this, for example. Let's look at this Tesla chart. This is a good example, right? We've already identified this range. Let's go back to August of this year, right? So we saw a little bit of bearish breakdown here, right? Broke below that range support. Perma bears on Tesla said, hell yes, sign me up. Tesla's going to zero. Because they had that bias, they're going to see what they want to see. Now, what I see is, okay, that's a breakdown in price, but we're not done yet. I'd be looking for 214 to hold. As you can see, we held that as support right here back in June of 23. So I'd wait for that. And then if we broke that, that would be my confirmation that we need to be bears and we need to trade this down to $200. Because I stayed in the middle, right? Neither bull nor bear. I was in the best position to execute this trade and make the most amount of money that was available for me to make, right? Looking at this little area right here. If you came into this with the perma bias of a bear, you're going to go short here and you're going to get beat to death because it ran. I mean, eventually they got that 200 touch, but you had to stomach almost, was it 3 months of that before you finally got the move you're looking for? Because the bias told you one thing, but the chart is telling you another. The goal is to sit in the middle. Never to draw a conclusion based on what you want or need to happen. Every trader I've ever met that has failed has one thing in common. I need this money. I need this money. Desperation. Now, it's not to say that if you have desperation, you're not going to be good at this. But the ones that did work their way out of it and became successful started with desperation and used that and turned that into wisdom, which is just honestly experience that guides new action, in my opinion. So if you can find experience that guides new action, which will yield a new outcome, again, back to what Wesley said about the scientific method, if you can determine a new course of action that yields a new outcome, it will then create new habits and new thoughts and new beliefs and new understandings that will then yield more positive actions, which yield more positive results, and it compounds. You've seen a snowball. It can start this small and it can be seemingly innocuous, right? But a snowball rolling down a snowy hill from a very high altitude can become something that can crush a house. How does that happen? Time, momentum, velocity, but more importantly, time. What you're buying yourself is more time in the market. That's what you need. If you act compulsively and impulsively and you make bad decisions like this, you will get beat to death every time. Remaining unbiased is really hard. That's why you have to let the math and the fundamentals do the talking. I mean, there's a little bit of instinct that goes with this, but more importantly, we need to rely upon both technicals, fundamentals, and market sentiment to come to a conclusion that here's what looks best. And so, like, if you'll notice the way I trade this range trading strategy, it's beautiful. It cuts all the emotion out of it. Bottom of range, we go long. Unless we break through the bottom, then we go short. But again, only after confirmation. We hit the top of range, we sell. And then if it breaks again, we go long. So look at how well this would have paid you once again. How many times it followed this exact pattern from top to bottom that with Tesla, especially if trading options, would yield a very significant return. We're talking a $2,000, $3,000 position right here in May. If you went long, paid you all the way to $297. So this options trade would have yielded you nearly 400, 500, 600% on a couple $1,000 position, you turn that into $20,000, $30,000, one trade. So we need to be very, very vigilant in how we look at this and how we analyze ourselves to understand exactly what's going on and make that determination that the trade is there. So yeah, Rorschach chart. Exactly. So Bert, that's a great point. So you don't want this to be that. This should not be a subject to interpretation based on anything other than what's happening on the chart, what's happening on the interior fundamentals of the company, and what's happening in the broad market at large. That should be what determines what you see in this chart. Because, you know, how many times, I hate to bring this up, old wounds for a lot of people, we bought AMC at less than $3. I called the top on this live on Facebook, on YouTube, on my stream. Pre-adjusted, we called the top at 77.30. So I think that was right about here. Split adjusted around 350, right? So we bought it down below $2. I don't know when that was. But anyway, other than this huge run up, right, on this chart, how many times do you think people sat there and said, no, it's going to come back? Everything about this chart, after the candle breached right here, everything on this chart said downside, right? Pushed up, we thinned out, we closed, huge bearish engulfing right here. Everything about this chart said more downside was coming, right? Everything about this chart said we're heading downhill. But everyone had more hope here. And then here they said we're breaking out again. We're going to the moon, new highs. And then right here they said the same thing. And then we sold off. And they said, well, this is definitely the bottom. And then it started to push up, and we get again an inverted hammer to the upside. No good. They said this is the new run. Now it's going, and it sells off. And then once again, they have one good day, and they said, you know what, this is it. We're going back to the moon. Everyone that was buying around, you know, 250, 275, so this is around $50 to $60 a share back before the split, was saying it's coming back. It's going to come back up here, and we're gonna make $1 million. And look at what's happened ever since that moment. There's at least 20, 30 different times where I know people were saying this is the bottom. The bottom is in. But everything about the fundamentals of the company, to what the CEO was doing and saying, to the insider selling, to, you know, the market analysts talking about, everything about it said downside was imminent. But hope and belief put people into bankruptcy. You cannot let that be you. You need to see the facts for what they are. And this chart is devastating. So don't get roped in. Don't buy in emotionally, because the only thing that you should be investing in emotionally is yourself, your family, your friends, your relationships. If you invest emotionally 100% in yourself, you'll be very, very good at this. You'll be excellent at this. You'll be one of the best at this, because you will be able to exercise emotional intelligence, which is like one of the greatest, in my opinion, one of the best assets one could have. It allows you to navigate socially. It allows you to navigate yourself. Carl Jung, the great doctor, one of my idols, always said, like, the bravest men explore the darkest depths of their own mind. Like, that is where we must explore. There's nothing out there worth finding. Everything worth finding is in here already. It's diving deep into the discomfort to figure out why it's uncomfortable to begin with. What lies have you told yourself for the last 20 years that have gotten you to this point? If you're someone who's been living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, but you had the best business idea 10, 15 years ago and you didn't move on it. You said, you know what? You listened to one or two naysayers who told you it wasn't going to work, and you put it to bed. And you spent the last 10 years at a dead-end job, paycheck to paycheck, never getting the vacations you want, never doing for your family what you want, suffering. It takes a lot of courage to go out and try that idea, and I'm not knocking it. Safety is key sometimes. But this skill doesn't require any risk, in my opinion, because now that we have paper trading, right, you can effectively work out all the mistakes before you ever risk $1. The most you have to spend is a little bit of time. And from where I sit, my perspective is trading a few hours a week for a few $1,000s a week down the road. And if you're good at it and you can trade short-term, move into long-term, and roll into dividend stuff, you'll be paying yourself for the rest of your life. Passive income. Buy once, pay forever. So For anyone that was scared to make that decision, here's one that you can make right now without taking all that risk of leaving a stable job, going out on your own. You can do all this while you keep that job. A little bit of time, a little bit of free time. Substitute that little bit of scrolling on TikTok for doing something that's worthwhile that will allow you to install an ATM in your living room and print money for yourself for the rest of your life. So everything you want is on the other side of fear. And fear, unfortunately, is what fear and greed, one and the same, right? Like love and hate are really just the same thing, but inverted. It's two sides of the same coin. Intense passion and feeling, but either driven towards anger, violence, resentment. I don't like getting a negative positive, but driving that, or like, selfless service, support, consideration, compassion. If you can drive those things into yourself and invest in yourself emotionally, just tiny little steps, one day at a time, you will become a much better person than you were when you started. And I don't mean better in any other sense than you will feel more joy. Your footsteps will press a little more lightly on the world. You will be contributing to your own benefit and the world's at the same time. Be improving your family's status and financial security. And more importantly, it's a skill for those of you that are parents you can bestow upon your kids. My 12-year-old's already learning this stuff. He's 12. I wish someone would have taught me this when I was 12. Now I expose him in little increments, right? Because he's not, if I overwhelm him, he's going to quit. I don't want him to quit. I just want him to understand it. If he chooses not to do it, then that's a choice. But I'm going to make sure that he understands the cost of not doing it and this very, very minuscule cost of actually putting some effort into it. Like the risk reward of learning this skill is, it's ridiculous how much it's favored to the reward side. A few hours a week for a few grand a month for the rest of your life, in my opinion. It's using the right tools, surrounding yourself with the right people, but more importantly, having the right mindset that will actually put you in a position to be successful. So again, that was number 7. That was feelings can fool you. Do not let your heart control decisions when it comes to investing, because you'll rob yourself and then start accusing the world of stealing your money when really you just gave it to some rich bastard who's just living somewhere in Miami, going out on a yacht, but he robbed you because he knows the financial markets and knows that he can trick you into buying options contracts that are going to expire worthless.